in Steubenville, Ohio, Derek Lostutter has been charged with hacking into the Steubenville football team's website. Now, as most of us probably know by now, Derek Lostutter is the reason, one of the reasons that the two rapists that committed this crime were convicted. He was able to obtain and leak the video footage that ultimately led to the conviction of the two rapists. Richmond, who was sentenced to a year in juvenile detention for his crime, and Trent Mays also received a 2-year sentence in juvenile detention for raping a passed-out 16-year-old girl at a party and taking video footage and pictures of it and tweeting to their friends. Several adults from the school have also since been charged with attempts to cover up this crime. And Dennis Lostetter, a 26-year-old cybersecurity consultant, has been charged with the crime now of hacking into the football team's website in order to obtain this evidence that was leaked, that he leaked. The FBI has raided his Kentucky farm in April of 2013 for making the videos, which exposed the tweets and the pics and the videos of the rape that Derek found through the team's website. Now, if convicted, Lostutter faces up to 10 years in prison, whereas the rapists only received, one of them received a 2-year sentence, one of them received a 1-year sentence, but Malik Richmond, who received his 1-year juvenile detention sentence, has since been released for good behavior after only about 9 months of incarceration. So my question rolls over to you guys. Is this justice?
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In response to your question, this is not justice. This, I mean, come on. 10 years? 10 years for hacking into a school website? Doesn't that seem a little excessive?
Absolutely.
Well, whenever the rapist got far less than that, that seems incredibly excessive. Like, I understand where the state's coming from here on this. Like, you can't let vigilantism become the way that we go about solving crime in America. But the way to stop vigilantism from becoming that is to take a situation like this where vigilantism was what actually stopped it and go, hey, maybe we should reform the way that we treat these cases so that we actually do our jobs and people don't have to do our jobs for us illegally. So, slap the kid on the wrist and then get some reform in there and actually take care of girls who are raped. That's the answer.
And that's sort of the biggest problem, too, is the fact that, and this is why this case kind of blows my mind and kind of pisses me off, is all the cover-ups from all the officials. Like, the people that you're supposed to entrust to be able to stop this thing from happening or to get, to report this kind of thing that happened, they're not taking responsibility. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. So it fell on a hacktivist, a part of the Anonymous Collective, to try and actually bring justice.
Exactly.
And it's really kind of, I really kind of make this connection towards, and bring it towards Edward Snowden, not to get this off topic too much, but I think that there's a real parallel between this guy and Edward Snowden for what they did, because, is hacking into a website a crime? Of course, right? By our laws, it is a crime. And is, taking confidential classified information, is that also a crime? Of course. But then when you commit a crime in order to serve the greater public good, what Edward Snowden did, obviously, is release a bunch of information to the public. And that's just what this guy did, this, Lostutter. That's exactly what he did. This is for the public good in order to expose greater crimes.
I would draw more of a parallel here to maybe kind of nuance it a bit more and say this is more of a parallel to the Chelsea Manning case than to the Ed Snowden case, because what we have here, like, to my knowledge, Snowden didn't necessarily try to go through the higher ups, to stop what was going on. Well, and Chelsea Manning had the same experience, like,
right.
They went through the proper chain of command, and then once it was realized that nothing was going to happen there, then Chelsea went ahead and did what had to be done. And I think that's what we have here. Like, in an instance like this, whenever there's a clear breakdown of the system that's supposed to be in place, whenever officials are clearly covering this up, and there's an active the mechanics of the system are actively working to stop justice, then you've got to factor, whenever someone breaks the law to reveal it, you've got to factor that in. You know, this isn't someone going straight to vigilantism. This is someone who's, you know, saw that, hey, this not only is a crime, you know, gone unpunished, but they're actively working to keep it that way. And so, again, I understand you got to give the kid a slap on the wrist. You know, hit him with a fine or whatever, just because we have to be a nation of law, not a nation, you know, of vengeance or whatever. But at the same time, he did what was right at the end of the day, and that's got to mean something.
Right, absolutely. It's a minor crime that didn't hurt anyone. It didn't cause any harm, but he shouldn't. He did it for the right reasons. He did it absolutely for the right reasons, and it ended up doing exactly what he wanted it to do. But the thing is, it seems like this particular area, this particular jurisdiction, wants to send a message, which discourages this type of thing in the first place. There are a lot of people in that area where the only important thing is high school football. I know, because I live near Steubenville. I live within just like an hour of Steubenville. I know how these people think. I know the way that they are. These are not rational people that we're dealing with. So I'm sure, I mean, the girl's still getting hate mail, and this guy, you know, is getting like hate mail and death threats and things like that for daring to expose these boys for their crimes, you know, because, you know, they're just acting like boys. But what kind of message is it sending to the state, to the rest of the country, if we're sending these boys to juvenile detention for less than 2 years for raping a girl and assaulting her body and traumatizing, you know, her for, you know, how long, who knows how long, but we're going to send someone who actually exposed them to jail for a decade of their lives?
Let's not forget to mention too that this was caught on this was deliberately taped.
Right.
Right. They
taped
taped it.
And shared.
But you guys are
Absolutely.
forgetting one. You guys are forgetting one major point, and that's hacking and exposing the government is the worst crime ever. Like,
Absolutely.
These
I
people
mean, they
embarrass
consider it
the
treason.
So I think this guy should get 60 years, obviously, because he embarrassed the police. Like, how do you think the officers felt when they didn't do their job?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
actually,
then they
yeah,
had that
you're right.
exposed.
I mean, wouldn't they have had the authority to check the football team's website themselves and investigate it? They wouldn't have had to hack into it. They would have had the authority to just look into the information that was on the website themselves.
But I'm sure
So you're
they were
right.
too busy watching the football game.
Yeah, I'm sure they were eager to put these two, you know, semi-famous football players in prison, you know, and take away their opportunity to, you know, make side bets about who's going to win the next game.
But they're not even real famous. They're high school famous. They're like popular kids in high school. That's the amazing thing. But
I know, but around here,
I know. But it's
Friday Night
really,
Lights, bro. Friday Night Lights.
But it's really about I've seen that movie and I haven't watched the TV show. But it's like if you embarrass the government and the police were embarrassed in this case by this hacker, then the system is going to come down incredibly hard on you. Like I don't get like too angry at the sentence because they charged the kids as juveniles because they were juveniles. So I don't know what the like the maximum they could have gotten as, you know, being charged as juveniles was. But the hacker, I mean, you give him a slap on the wrist, you fine him, you say, look, you because you can't have people hacking everybody's websites, obviously, but you got to be like, he found something very important, and maybe the people who weren't looking aren't the right people to prosecute the guy who actually was looking for some like actual evidence. Like that's the part that bothers me.
Well, there's a couple of things about this. I don't know if I would necessarily equate it to Snowden and Chelsea Manning, but I would equate it to a couple of the prosecutions we've seen in the last couple of years. The kid who hacked into Stratfor, as well as Aaron Swartz's like sort of case in general, and that's the lawyer who actually is representing a couple of those cases is now representing this guy. And I think what's interesting about it is it was a throwaway line, but sadly I think it works, which is, you know, hackers are the new communists. And I think that you do have an American public that doesn't quite understand hacking. And the other important point to probably bring up at this point in this conversation is that he technically didn't hack. It was actually a conversation that he had with another hacker amongst anonymous who actually said he guessed in a Rolling Stone article. They got him on record saying that the guy guessed the password for the football team's website, which I believe was the football team's name, because genius. So this is the kind of stuff that I think the lawyer is obviously going to bring up in the whole, in the whole proceedings in the case going forward. What I think that the larger questions are is we don't have a legal system that's kind of equipped to handle these things. Where we have rules of you can't, tyranny and all these things that get brought up, but we don't have anything that's sort of dealing with the age that we live in. And I think a lot of these laws need to be updated. And we do need to have a public discussion, which was, I think, in the next year or two you're going to see because of all of these high-profile cases. Where's the public on these issues? Because, for example, this gets really complicated with this specific case because though I think we would all agree that we're happy to see somebody do justice in a place where there was no justice being found, I'm not sure how happy we'd be if we started taking the individual things that the guy did. Doxing is something that I don't really like, but once again, in this case, you understand why it happened. So I think that there's a lot of conversations to be had in the next few years moving forward on where we see ourselves in 5 or 10 years when this becomes more commonplace. And yes, there's a slippery slope argument, but there's also an argument that perhaps we need to have these kinds of vigilante actions when the system seems so corrupt.
Yeah, no, totally. I completely agree with you in principle. Whenever we see people do something like this, we have to take action. This isn't something that can become the norm. But the action that we should take is fix the system, not punish the people who show the system is broken. Now, like I said, if the guy breaks the law, you got to give him a slap on the wrist. You got to be a nation of laws.
Right. I think you have to go back to the essence of why the law is there. The hacking law is there presumably to protect the public and the public good and individuals, to make sure that people's identities don't get stolen, to make sure that people don't hack into bank accounts and steal money, to things like that, to protect privacy, to protect goods and all that. No one was harmed here. There was nothing stolen. No identity was stolen. It was purely for and apparently it wasn't even. I wouldn't even consider that hacking. And consider the magnitude. Yeah, and consider the magnitude of the reaction. His farm was raided by the FBI because he leaked information that led to a conviction in an important rape case.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Right. Going back to the just going back to how he actually gained access to the school website. As a former web student, I just have to go like this. That's almost as bad as putting password as your password. Oh, come on.
That's not a good idea.
Like that.
I have to change all of my passwords now.
I should change password 1234 then.
But I mean, I get. But then again, you got to come back and say, well, it's a good thing that they were so dumb with their password, because then they were able to get the evidence to be able to convict these two rapists. And look, I'm not really so angry at the fact that Malik is actually getting out after 9 months, right, for good behavior. I'm not so mad at that. What I'm really mad at is the fact that the hacker himself is facing 10 years. Way too much of a sentence. It's way too much of a sentence, especially for actually doing so. Oh, you do something good, and using it something that's obviously against the law, but you do something good with that, we're gonna punish you and come down so hard. No, slap on the wrist. He's already. I'm pretty sure he's already served enough time for doing what he did. Let him go.
Right. As of now, it feels like they gave the rapist the slap on the wrist, and they're putting the hammer down on him.
Since when is rape less of a crime than gaining access to a website that you're not supposed to gain access to.
A high school football website. I mean, come on.
I think you do have to look at the larger issue though too, just in the fact that this case is very high profile because of what happened. But I think there's like a serious conversation to be had of where are we comfortable with these actions. Like, what if he had tweeted out something or sent out something that wasn't correct? That becomes a different case, obviously. I don't think anyone that wasn't on Fox News or something would argue that anybody believes that a hacker should get more than a rapist. But one, it is, as Sean or someone said, there was a juvenile sentence, so it's, that's also, this guy's 26, I believe. So, I mean, there is that as well. But the number one thing in this specific case, obviously from a legal standpoint, is he has a pretty good case that he wasn't actually, he had got these pictures and messages and video, but he wasn't the one who actually hacked in to get them. So there's a lot of that. But I think, why don't you hear more about this? And if the public needs to be way better educated on the issues of this stuff, because hacking is a really easy term, and anonymous, obviously, it's sort of live by the sword, die by the sword in a way, because they kind of use the anonymous sort of creepy, putting my hoodie up in a dark place, we don't know who we are, to fear and scare people in power. And there is that white knight thing with especially this guy with the KY anonymous account. But at the same time, when it comes back, the government's like, these guys are scary, and people are genuinely afraid of them. They don't get what they can do. When we talk about it in even just different realms of this, I call it like the magic millennial theory, because when you talk to old people, they're really not sure what young people can do with computers. They really think we can do everything. So this is playing against them when it gets to trial too. It helps to instill fear into corporations or into situations like this where towns, literally do just look at it and go, well, it's high school football, shrug. But when it comes to the court, the same jury and the same judge who's 70 looks at it and goes, I don't like these kids. So I think public dialogue on all of these issues is really important, and we're not seeing it even after Swartz died, and after the cases that preceded him as well.
Yeah, if I could just jump in and inject some levity into what is obviously a horrible situation. Dan, I think there is one entity outside of Fox News that would argue for hackers to get bigger sentences than rapists, and that's the Obama Justice Department.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then, two, and again, I realize this is a horrible, horrible situation, but and I've spent the whole time, defending this kid. But, and you'll see on my screen here, this is the fellow in question. This is Derek Lostutter. As soon as someone takes a picture of themselves in a Guy Fawkes mask, I lose all sympathy and respect for them, especially when you do it in the name of sticking it to the man and freedom. Guy Fawkes was a religious terrorist who tried to install a theocratic government in England. Learn your history. Don't watch bad movies and base your identity on them.
Whoa.
To be fair, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
That is a bad movie.
I'm
on your side.
That is
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. I got your back on that. No, I agree. That is a tragedy that became the symbol, because I like a lot of the things that they do, and I love somebody who covers media every week. I'm sorry, it's hilarious every week to watch the boomer media completely lose their shit anytime Anonymous posts anything. Any kid in a basement anywhere. During the Ford scandal, we had Anonymous claim that they were going to take down the Ford's website and the city of Toronto's website, and that they would end all of Toronto or something. So yeah, I mean, and the media runs with it, right? Because it's a good headline. So I think what you saw today, though, with the Obama administration, or yesterday, I guess, playing some PR games, and at least that's a first step in the right direction. The fact that they even acknowledged that perhaps the NSA has some issues is a lot farther along than we were last year at this time. So, I mean, baby steps that we'd all like to be giant steps, but better than nothing.